lights are off. I'm flying through the hallway like a disco moth. Pitching to the couch, then I loop through the fan. My tiny whoop's grooving like a funky jam. I dip through the doorway, spin by the cat, bounce off the toaster, yeah, I'm meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through the curtain, dancing on breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got soul. I'm the pilot of the party, on a roll. TV remote's a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 7.5. No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. You will low, we fly that flow. Spread that gap, no time to nap. No time to nap. Hit that roll, funk and control. Bounce that wall, we fly it all. We fly it all. Tiny whoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all. Can't stop at all. Can't stop at all.
What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. You were just watching some flying from the Quadmula Siren F3. Mamba Toka 1505 motors. What kV are they? 3800 maybe? 3800 kV. Gemfan 3052 propellers. I want to say 03 on board with an ND filter. Unfortunately, there's both frame and a little bit of the ND filter in view. I had this on the widest field of view. Can't really do that. But they do have camera mounts that push the camera a little bit farther forward to hopefully get the top plate out of view. I just haven't put them in yet, because I flew this thing a little bit towards the end of the year last year, and then I got cold and I stopped flying it. I do need to get this back up in the air because it's a blast. It really just it's big and makes loads of power and hauls ass out in front of the house. I don't like to fly it out there though after like 4 or 5 o'clock when the neighbors have come home from work. I try to only fly it like during the day when there's really no cars in the street and it's like super quiet in the neighborhood. Just because like it's big and it's fast and it's kind of heavy. I mean, you know, 260 grams is not gonna kill anyone, but this'll crack a windshield on a car, and I don't feel like paying to replace a car windshield. They're expensive. So yeah, I need to get that thing back up in the air though. It flies so goddamn good. Tonight we're gonna be taking a look at the CrazyG473. Shout out to Uriel for sending over a box of goodies over on the Discord. I put a picture of one of the things that was in the box. It's it's not real Lego. It's a knockoff Lego cat licking his balls. So jump over to General Nonsense on the Discord if you want to see what that looks like. It's either knockoff Lego pieces or there are people that will buy the legit Lego pieces and put their own little. They'll buy 1 million of the right pieces to make a cat that is licking his balls, and then they'll make their own little bags with those Legos and their own little instruction manual. I can't tell if that's what it is, or if it's or if they're actually knockoff Legos. It kind of doesn't matter what it is. So yeah, box from Uriel showed up, which is super awesome. I'm gonna show you what was in there. Box from Weebleed also showed up with this sweatshirt. Thank God, because it is still just outrageously cold. I am just absolutely dying in this basement. I cannot get... I refuse to turn the upstairs thermostat over 72 degrees. I don't like to have it up that high anyway. I like to have it at 70. I cannot get it to be more than 64 degrees in this basement. It's just the way that the vents are in this house. I should probably hire somebody to come in and put additional vents down here. There's only one single vent for the basement, and it's inside of the newbie drone cube actually, and that's just not enough. And I don't want to run the gas stove down here because not stove, gas fireplace down here rather, because gas is absurdly expensive. I do have a little space heater that I have pretty much cranked up to full stank 24/7, and it helps a little bit. But yeah, it's cold down here, man. I'm just wearing thick clothing and waiting for the temperature to change at this point. I'm not gonna like go ape shit spending a bunch of money to try to get it to be hotter down here. You know, it's basement life. It is what it is. So I'm trying out Social Stream Ninja tonight, which allows me to not have YouTube running. It allows me to not have the YouTube chat or the YouTube window opened at all, which should fix the memory leak problem. It's already making a massive difference. Like this is the activity monitor on the Mac. Typically when I have YouTube running, this CPU load here will be up at like towards the beginning of the stream. It'll be up like towards 80%, and then when the stream's about to shit the bed, it'll be almost completely maxed. And then this memory pressure here will pretty much be pegged the entire... It gets worse as the stream goes on, but it's, yeah, massive difference already. Shout out to Kevin Sumner after Monday's live stream for being like, yo, check out Social Stream Ninja real quick. I'll walk you through it. But it was extremely easy to install this. So, yeah, I've got Social Stream Ninja's chat window opened over here in the normal spot, and then I just don't have the YouTube window opened at all. So hopefully this will be a lot better. It seems way better so far, which is pretty rad. Yeah, again, tonight we're going to check out the CrazyG473. Take a look at it, look at what it comes with in the box, get started on a build. Maybe we'll get the build finished and we can fly it around. It depends. We'll see how everything goes. But we're gonna look at some specs, and unbelievably, I've got a 2G4 just sitting here, ready to go. So we can weigh a 2G4 and we can weigh a CrazyG473 and see what the difference is, which is pretty slick. It looks like what has replaced the SuperX, which is hopefully this is better than the SuperX. The SuperX compared to the 2G4, basically the situation was that the 2G4 was electrically a lot less noisy, but heavier. The Super G was a lot thinner of a PCB and a lot lighter, but you could not get a good, you could get a decent tune. You couldn't get like a great tune on it though, and it was a little bit more fragile. And so I'm still a fan of the 2G4. I'm kind of, even though this 473 seems pretty good, it is direct solder only, which for me sucks because that makes testing different motors and or replacing motors when I break them or bend the motor shafts just infinitely more difficult and annoying. So I still think the 2G4 is the way to go, but if you want to do a direct solder build, this CrazyG473 might be the jam. So yeah, we're going to check it out, see what's what, and I've got a set of motors here with no motor plugs on them. Nyafu actually sent these over, as well as a bunch of other really fun stuff. These are VCI, the ball bearing 0702 30,000 kV. I have heard that these make great power, but they're not efficient. Very similar to the Newbie drone, the RC in Power, the BetaFPV 0702 30,000s. I ran the old VCI motors and they were exactly that. Not very efficient, but made great power. And so I have a feeling these are going to be the same, but only one way to find out. So we'll solder these up, give them a shot, see how they are. If they're good, I'll leave them on, and this will just be a VCI CrazyG473 build. If they're not good, I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably take them off and swap over to something different, but we'll see. I've got a brand new black Cockroach V3 frame, and where's the camera? I thought that I'd left out a camera out for myself. So the CrazyG473 does not seem to have a camera plug, so I'm going to have to direct solder a camera. I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do there yet. I was kind of hoping on doing a Runcam Nano 3 camera in the canopy, but maybe I'll do something different. Maybe I'll do a Bri-Brain canopy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dig around for a camera that does not have a plug on it. There's got to be a camera floating around here somewhere that's got bare wires on it. Here's one. What is this little fella? This is, I put a red mark on it. Did I put a red letter on it? Is that what that is? Is that a red letter? Or is that a red X? Oh, for Christ's sakes. This might be a tiny pinch camera. That camera has a plug on it. Here's a Runcam Nano, but it does have a plug on it. I'm not cutting the plug off. That's insanity. Here's a camera that doesn't have a plug on it. This is a Foxeer Razor, right? Yeah, Foxeer Razor. I'm not going to use that. It's okay. I think I'm going to use this little fella. And I'll try to figure out what it is. I'm going to give a close-up of this, and then whoever can figure out what this actually is wins nothing. So yeah, I'll use this guy. is this a 20-degree mount? I think this is a 20-degree mount here. This is a super lightweight mount. It should work in there. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So I'll use this mount. We'll keep it nice and light. We'll see what that camera is, and I'll see if I can adjust to flying through that camera. We're going to do BT 2.0. I'm going to be super lazy and just run one of these BetaFPV guys rather than wiring up one of the very cool 180-degree LED ones. So yeah, we should be able to get a whole build done tonight. Battery connector, camera, AIO. I'll use an antenna from over there. What I really want to do is put a C03 on it. But, oh, sorry. I'm like screaming right into the mic. But I don't necessarily want to cut the, I don't want to cut the lead off of a C03. Although the C03 does have this stupid little connector on it. Maybe I need to just cut a lead off of a C03. Because this mount, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. We're gonna put a C03 on this. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're doing. The hood on this sweatshirt is like thick. It's like a thick hood. Look at it. It won't sit down flat. I might need to... This is a thick sweatshirt. This is a sweatshirt from Weebleed. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do a CO3. So that we can see where we're going. And we'll see what it ends up weighing with a really lightweight TPU printed mount. This is a mount that I have on the... well, I have a version of this mount on the Etsy store that's 42 degrees up tilt. This version of the mount is 20 degree up tilt, but the front leg is really weak, so this will break. But just for the time being, I have this printed out. It's sitting right here. We're going to use it. We'll see how long it lasts. And yeah, it does work with the CO3 because the top and the bottom are open. You see that? And so the CO3 uses that little bit of open space on the top and the bottom, because the CO3 is like a rectangle. The circuit board in the back is a rectangle rather than a square, and so it's a little bit taller than it is wide, and because of that, it needs a bit of a different canopy. If you're gonna run a CO3, you got to make sure that there's a piece of electric tape or some kind of opaque tape over the back of it. The PCB is so thin that if you don't do that and then you try to fly it outside, you can see the back of the circuit board. So with all of your CO3s, make sure that you put a little piece of tape on the back of them. It just immediately fixes it. I just use electric tape because why wouldn't you? But yeah, you can use any tape that is not see-through. And you just stick it on there. There's nothing to it. You literally just crudely put it on the back of the thing, and it'll block the light that's shining through it. So you just cut yourself a little piece of electric tape to the right size. That is the right width. It's not quite the right length. So that should be about the right length there. Okay. So about that big. Take it, slot it right into the back of there. And the CCD is pretty much dead center. So you don't have to get it like perfectly lined up or anything. It's still a little bit too long. So let me just come in here and trim it down a little bit. 1 and 2. Cool. And that's all there is to it. Just put a little piece of tape on the back of it and like that, and you won't have any problems with that. It's an easy thing to forget. You'll know it, though, if you fly it in any situation where there's light shooting into the back of the camera. In your vision, you'll see like the traces. You can literally see the traces and the little through holes and shit. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, super easy fix. Cool. So that's the plan for tonight, friends. I don't know what's going on. I have apparently hurt my lower back, which I haven't done in a long time. It could very well have been from the generator thing where I was trying to get the generator started when it had no fuel in it. But yeah, if you see me kind of grimacing a little bit, it's because my back hurts. I got a bunch of batteries on the charger here, 4 260s and 2 300s. That should be plenty if we can get this build done. I was gonna rebuild the rig that we were flying and testing on Monday, but this box showed up. I know people have been dying to take a look at the 473, and so I figured we'll wait on that. We'll get that. We'll finish up that testing that we were doing on Monday, maybe on Friday. I thought for Whoop Wednesday it would be a little bit more, it'd be a little bit better to take a look at a new product. You know, you can still get the 2G4, but it's heavy. You know, it's hard to get a build below 18 grams with a 2G4. Well, speaking of, let's see. It should be very realistic to get a build below 18 grams with the 473. I don't necessarily know if this build will be, because I'm not using the lightest weight frame. I'm not using the lightest weight camera and canopy setup, but you know, I always go for durability over lightweight. 2G4, no battery lead, no antenna, nothing. 4.1 grams. That's got a full USB plug on it and motor plugs. 4.1. CrazyG473. 3.7. I would think it would be a little bit lighter than that. What are the BetaFPV AIOs weigh? Electronics. Oh my god, really? With the fucking pop-ups, it kicks me out of the menu? Come on now. Flight controllers, brushless flight controller. We're not going to compare it to that one. We're going to compare it to the Matrix. 3.92 grams. Well, shit. Okay. 2G4 is not that heavy. Huh. So we're saving almost a half a gram from the AIO. I would have thought it would be more than that. That is like a little miniature advertisement for the 2G4. The 2G4 is going to be a little bit heavier because the motors are going to have plugs on them. So, you know, take that 0.4, 0.5 of a gram and add maybe another, at least 0.1, maybe 0.2. We'll see. We'll see what this build ends up weighing, all said and done. In the chat, Spaceman Spiff was first. McShaky was next. P-Money, Whoop Fox, Uplift, Flakadelic, Yukon FPV, Matthew Wagner, Natter FPV, Jeremy Flies, Spaceman Spiff again, Frank Nicholas, Danzil the Terrible, Nyafu, capital C, Uplift, Orc, Green Thumb, Dirty Nacho. Dirty Nachos makes me laugh every time. Replicator, Stefan, Banshee, Angular FPV. Oh, man. Unbelievably, the social stream ninja chat scrolls to the bottom at random, just like YouTube, just like the YouTube chat. I was really hoping that that wouldn't happen, but whatever. As long as it doesn't memory leak and kick the shit out of my computer like the YouTube chat does, I'll be happy. I'm not sure where I left off here, but looks like we also got Mario Beans here. Nyafu, License to Drive. There's Uriel. Did I get everybody? Striker, Mupshot, not quite. Veritas Weasel, Break Faded. All right, I think I got everybody now. Rockstar of the live stream today is Uriel. He sent over a box with all kinds of cool stuff. A bunch of like Lego Technic knockoff. That's a huge Cyber Owl thing for Little Boo, Florence, to build. She's been building a lot of Lego stuff lately, having a good time doing it. So that's up on the kitchen table. And then a whole bunch of really cool FPV stuff in here. We've got the CrazyG473, which is super awesome. He sent this one over. And then we've got a JHE-MCU AIO that it looks like is 1S, 2S, 12 amp for HD. So this is going to go into a baby turtle build along with a either walk snail light maybe, or I might try to convince myself to get another 04 light. We'll see. I have walk snail light, 4 of them that are up on my Etsy store. So I can just grab one of those out of that box and throw it in here. Or I don't know, maybe I'll splurge and get an 04 light. It's not like I'm not going to use them or break them, so it kind of makes sense to just sort of snag another one of those, but we'll see. And then a couple of sets of the VCI motors, VCI 0702, both 30,000 kV, the light as well as the dual ball bearings. So a bunch of really cool stuff to test, as well as this crazy thing. I have no idea what this is. It says ESP32 camera. It's got a USB port on it. I don't know what this is. I think maybe this is just you plug USB in and then the little camera works. It doesn't look like it has a VTX on it. There's nowhere to plug in an antenna. So that's what I'm sort of assuming this is. So I'll see if I can find a use for this. He threw in one of the little Annoyatron things. This is not the Weebleed version. This is just the chirping version, where it just does that. You push the button to change the delay, and it just does that over and over again. So you hide it somewhere and then drive someone completely insane. And then he threw in this sticker. This saying on the sticker is one of my favorite T-shirts that my dad has ever worn. I remember growing up, like the first time I saw my dad wearing this T-shirt, I thought it was a moment where I was like, shit, man, my dad's the coolest guy on earth. And then a whole bunch of stickers, which I'll get into the giveaways, and a whole bunch of the GemFan, a couple sets of the GemFan 1219Ss, which is very, very cool. Thank you, Uriel. Super kind of you, man. So yeah, we're going to be doing a bunch of testing here, thanks to our amazing community. And then the other box that showed up was the Weebleed box with the sweatshirt that I'm wearing. But there's also some fun stuff in here. There's a couple of the Weebleed Red Air 65 V2 frames. These will be in upcoming giveaways. And then 2 of the Weebleed Red Air V2 canopies. Again, these will be going in the giveaways. We've got a Whoop Group T-shirt, which I'll wear sooner than later, but not yet because it is just excruciatingly cold still. One of his Band-Aids, a couple of stickers, more cool stuff for the giveaways, and then look at this, a whole bunch of the resin printed stick ends. These are Sticka's Grip, old school thumb grippies. Just keeping thumb grippies alive, new from 2026. So, yeah, a bag of these little thumb grippies, which will, I don't know what I'll do with these. Maybe these will reinvigorate the box of thumb grips that you can rent from me if you're a patron, or maybe these will just end up in the giveaways. But I have a feeling that I would like to get that box going, and it looks like there is like one set of each. So there's a set of these ones, Jesus. These ones are evil looking. There's a set of these with big spikes on them. Looks like there's only one of this variant here. There's a set of these ones with the little tiny pokies. Set of these. So there's like almost one set of each of the thumb grippies. So yeah, I'll probably end up getting the stick and dick end boxes. Get another one going. I have the one box which is like M4, but the box of M3 stick ends. For anybody that's new, a couple of years ago. Oh, here's the other one. Here's the matching one that looks like that. A couple of years ago, I took donations from you beautiful bastards and bought one set of every stick end that was in stock and available in the US in both M3 and M4, because some transmitters are M3, some are M4. And I put together 2 boxes with all of these stick ends. And one of the perks of being a patron was that you could jump into... This is one of the text channels in the Patreon only section of my Discord. You could rent this box out for the price of shipping, which is just $4.73. And then I would ship you a box with all these stick ends. You could put them on your transmitter and actually try them to see which ones you actually like, rather than just looking at a picture of a set of stick ends on the internet and thinking like, I might like that, and then you get them and you're like, ooh, these are awful. Unfortunately, the box of M3 stick ends vanished. And there were like $300 and something of stick ends in there. So I never ended up getting that box going. Also, like, I'd sent that box out to 20, 30 people, and there was kind of no demand for it anymore. So it got lost towards the tail end of everybody that was interested sort of renting that box out from me. So it was, in a weird way, kind of perfect. But now a bunch of time has gone by, and so, yeah, maybe we get it back going again. You know, last I heard, thumb grippies was kind of going away. That little note that Zotek put in there makes me kind of feel like maybe they're coming back. It sort of doesn't matter. That is a whole bunch of stick ends in all different sizes, and so if you get, if that comes to you, even though maybe you can't get those exact ones, if you find that you like the big wide ones, then there should be a big wide stick end that you can get somewhere. Or if you find that you like the itty bitty ones, there you go, or somewhere in between, right? So I still think it has a lot of value. CiottiFPV.com is my website. Where is it at? There it is. Head on over there, join my Patreon. That's the best way that you can support me and keep this thing going. This is totally crowdfunded. There's affiliate links over there. Change your bookmarks over to somebody's affiliate links. Support us that make stuff that you can watch for free on YouTube, and we'll keep making stuff that you can watch for free on YouTube, right? There's a Teespring store over there. We can get some fun shirts and whatnots. There's a Fiverr page where you can work one-on-one with me, or you can just message me and we'll schedule it if you want to learn a lot really fast. Those are the main ways to support me. Patreon is the best way to help me keep this thing going. Hold on, let me get some water. Oh, my back hurts. Teddy's asleep on the couch, for anybody wondering. Yay. I've had the I stole Maggie's heated blanket, and I've got it over on the couch. It's actually really nice. It's got a little timer built in, so I've been running a 1 hour timer on it with it turned up as high as it'll go, and I got it like under my back, and that seems to have been helping a little bit. We'll see. We will see. So that's the plan for tonight. In the chat, Danzel the Terrible says, word on the street is that this is the groovy place to be. Good evening, CiottiFPV and all at all. Orc says, yo gang, Orc is fine. Love it. Banshee says, goy. Uriel says, happy to stay up late. It's 4 a.m. Nice. Uriel's hardcore. Thank you again, Uriel. Very kind of you. Thank you again to Nyafu as well. They sent over a whole bunch of awesome stuff that we've been messing around with, and that, you know, we're gonna. These motors have just been sitting here with the bare ends. I was like, ooh, those are gonna be the motors for the 473. So this is absolutely perfect. Nyafu also sent over a set of Hummingbird 0702 30,000s, which I'm going to cut the motor connectors off of and direct solder to maybe this CrazyG473, but definitely these are going to get soldered up to the Hummingbird V4 AIO build. We're going to do a live stream comparing JST 1.0 to direct soldered to see what we've kind of already done that in a way, but this will be cool to kind of look at that, and that Hummingbird build deserves to have motors that are going to have a little bit better, make a little bit more power. You know, we did that with we've done that with 3 separate builds that were close to each other in terms of like all up weight and performance, but they were all on different AIOs and they were all slightly different weights. And so this will be really cool because the JST 1.0 plugs are all the way over here, and that they're they have the most soldered is all the way over here, and the Hummingbird V4 board has nice pads up on the top. So yeah, that Hummingbird setup that'll be really cool. I'll fly a couple of batteries on it, and then we'll tear it apart. We'll direct solder the motors on, and then we'll fly a couple batteries so we have an exact head-to-head comparison. We can also then weigh the difference between it. All we'll get to see, though, I'm going to leave the plugs on the board. I'm not going to remove the plugs from the board. So all that will really tell us is what the plugs on the motor side weigh. Maybe I will remove the plugs from that board, because like what we've learned here recently is that those JST 1.0 plugs are pretty bad. Like they made a big difference in the amount of power that thing made. Like, as annoying as that rig will be to have direct soldered motors, it's not like the main build that I fly all the time, and so it's like a backup build, so like whatever if it's not super durable. With the bigger standard motor plugs, the JST 1.25 motor plugs, the difference between those and direct soldered was not nearly as drastic as with the smaller JST 1.0s. So I feel like it makes, if there's going to be a build that I suffer through having direct soldered motors, which in my experience are less durable and just super annoying when you inevitably bend or break a motor to swap out, that's kind of a good build for it. You know what I mean? That build is also kind of heavy too, so that'll reduce a little bit of weight. So yeah, you guys are sending me all kinds of cool stuff that is going to open up some really cool testing, and I'm excited about that. So thank you for all being such an awesome part of this community. It's really cool that we can figure this stuff out together. Nyafu says, what do Betaflight radio link presets actually do? Easiest way to think about it is this. At 500 hertz or at 250 hertz on your on ELRS for your packet rate, when you move the sticks, it's not it's not like this. It's stair steps, and you don't want your motors to try to use those stair step. You don't want your motor to get a stair step and to work really hard to get up to that next stair step, and then if you stair step back down, it breaks really hard. You want the motors to do this. You want the motors to not to go like full power, stall, full power, no power, full power, no power. You want them to go a little bit more power, a little bit more, right? And so the RC command comes in stair steps no matter what. The the radio length preset, the 500 hertz preset, or the 250 preset, they smooth out those stair steps. So the RC command is always going to come in stair steps, and then as long as you have the right preset on, it's going to smooth that out. And then within those presets, you can choose racing, freestyle, cinematic. Those increase the amount of smoothing to the point where when you pick like the cinematic or the freestyle HD cinematic, whatever it is, those are actually going to add literal stick smoothing. So if you hammer and I run those, I run the bottom two, the cinematic one or the cinematic freestyle one, specifically to add stick smoothing. So I can take the roll stick and hammer it all the way into the plastic as fast as I can. And the stick smoothing, instead of just going like that, it will ramp that in. And so the video that I get out of my quads always has this nice, soft attack and recovery. So instead of the quad just instantly starting to spin and having that really like robotic, really hard look, it will slowly start to spin and then it'll slow down a little bit at the end. This is why people that like, this is what the diehard KISS people describe as the way that KISS looks. KISS does not, it doesn't one of the biggest complaints that those folks have about Betaflight is that Betaflight looks robotic. The reason why Betaflight looks robotic is because it is amazing at matching your stick command perfectly. Inside of Betaflight, there are things like this that I'm talking about. There's also the jitter reduction in the feed forward, and those things will take that robotic look out, and it'll make the flight footage look like you're flying KISS in a way. I've always found it funny that like KISS people think that that's a feature of KISS. Like KISS has this magical look to it, and it looks better. And Betaflight looks worse. And it's like, well, no, KISS just doesn't follow a set point nearly as well. And so you can only have that look. You've always been able to, there's always been ways to add stick smoothing in Betaflight to get that exact same look. Or if you want better response time and better matching of the set point, you can do that too in Betaflight. That's something that Mark Spatz figured out ages ago that I remember having a conversation with him about it and us just like laughing our asses off. But, you know, confirmation bias is a real thing, as is placebo. Fly what makes you happy, friends. Both flight firmwares are really, really good, but Betaflight is obviously better. Uriel says, it's a dog and it's fun for family, the owl and not the drop. Is it really a dog? I don't know why I thought it was a cat. Oh, shit. Spaceman Spiff says, the pink VCIs are not ball bearing. You have the bushing lights. Are you sure? Because there's two of these. There's the light, and in here are... Oh, I'll be damned. Why did I think it was backwards? I thought the lights were the green ones. I mean, it's super easy to see. You just look at the bottom of the damn things. Yeah, look at that. Okay. Good call. Thank you for that. There's a washer down. You know what? I couldn't tell because there's a washer on the bottom. You can't see past it on the bushing ones. Well, that's actually good. From what I understand, the ball bearings that we can fit into these itty bitty little motors are not rated for the RPM that we put through them, which explains why when you run one of these ball bearing high kV motors for a while, the ball bearings start to get really noisy. The bushing motors are the ones that you want. And those are the purple/pink ones. So that's actually that's a positive. These green ones here have the the ball bearings in them, and these ball bearings will not last long, especially if you're crashing. The bushings are totally fine. Bunch of people have tested bushing versus bearing motors, and the bearing motors don't really give you any extra like efficiency or power or anything like that. And then, like I said, before long, once you run them, they start making more and more and more noise. The bushing motors just keep going and going and going. Jeremy Flies FPV says, due to recent events, I'm 100% on board with motor plugs. LOL. Uriel says, mumble, mumble, mumble. Knock off Lego. Check the Ada Alpha. It's better than Lego. Like the owl, you'll enjoy. Yeah, that owl is wild looking. I can't wait for I can't wait to see that thing getting built. Striker says, not even gonna lie, I'm tempted to start running MR30s on 5-inch. Yeah, it's so funny, man. Those MR30 is basically like, it's the same company that makes the XT60s and the XT30s, but it's a 3-plug, and so you can use it for motors. They've been around forever, and I remember like early days them popping up, and a couple people being like, "Oh, these are great." And then like weird shit would happen, like they would come unplugged when, like, if you prop strike into them, they'll come unplugged. And then like that was it. They also add a little bit of extra weight, and so they popped up, and then they just disappeared, and they vanished for like years and years and years. And then a few years ago, Rotor Riot started putting them on. Oh god, I forget what motors it was. Maybe the Cricket motors. But yeah, Rotor Riot's been pushing those for a while. It's interesting. It's an interesting idea. There is only like 1 or 2 motors that have them though. And so, you know, like if those are the motors that you're diehard gonna run, it's kind of cool. Otherwise, it's a bunch of extra work. It's not much extra work. But yeah, it's extra weight. It's an extra failure point. You can... What I'm going to say with those is, if you're going to run them, I would get up, but I'm not going to, because I'm really trying to have my lower back not explode in pain anymore. Do not put those MR30s here on the arm, because this is where the prop is going to hit. Get those things close to the motor, so that if the prop bends, it doesn't hit them, right? You want your prop strike to happen, well, all of your prop strikes are going to happen in here. And I think that was one of the problems early days of those MR30s, is that we weren't thinking about that. We were just putting them anywhere, and then they were getting tangled up in the prop and unplugged and all kinds of shit. So yeah, make sure you get those things as close to the motor as you possibly can if you're going to use them, to avoid prop strikes. Mupshot says, I know I'm late, noticing the G473 5-in-1 has a power bridge, and you can turn off the VTX by opening the circuit. Is that your take? To be honest, I haven't really looked at it yet. But usually those are... Yep, look at that. There are 2 of them, and they're very well marked. Awesome. Way to go, HappyModel. Yeah, there's 2 little solder bridges. One of them very clearly says RX. The other one very clearly says VTX. So... yeah, you can just break these little solder bridges to turn off the onboard VTX or the onboard ELRS receiver, and then you can put an external VTX. You could use these with HD, or you could put an external ELRS receiver. That's really cool, because God forbid the VTX ever shits the bed on here, or the receiver shits the bed on here. You don't have to throw this in the river. You can just break that solder bridge, put an external on, and keep on rocking. The X12, I'm pretty sure, has a solder bridge for the VTX. I don't think the 2G4 does, though. You can always see them. They're, like, very obvious. Oh, nope, the 2G4 does have one back here. It's not labeled, though. Well, maybe that's one. It kind of looks like one. Wait, is that the antenna? No, it's not the antenna. It looks like there's a solder bridge back here. Well, I mean, there's definitely a solder bridge back here, but it's not labeled. My guess is going to be that it's for the VTX. But I can't really confirm that. And there's components like right on top of it, so I'm not going to unbridge it. But yeah, very cool. Good call. I didn't think of that. Danzel the Terrible says, any big... No. Nyafu says, just built a 65mm whoop with the SuperX V2 and tiny whoop pinch. I'm getting a scrolling image constantly. What could the issue be? My guess is going to be it's either the onboard VTX or your goggles. If you have any other analog build, fire it up. And if your goggles are not scrolling, then that's not the problem. Oh, well, actually, it depends on your receiver. If you're using a rapid fire receiver, and if the tiny whoop pinch camera is not set up the way like the industry standard is for video, the rapid fire can sometimes have issues with certain cameras. And so you can get around that by going from rapid fire 2 to rapid fire 1 or legacy. So check those things. If it's none of those things, I would blame that on the onboard VTX. I don't think the camera can be the reason that that's happening. Although you're going to probably have to pull it apart anyway. So if you pull it apart, swap the camera out to another camera and see if it goes away. But yeah, there's a couple things to check. Danzilla the Terrible says, I think that ESP32 is an Arduino. Probably can use it on a 3D printer for time-lapse, etc. Oh! Oh, okay. Okay. What happens when I plug it in? I wonder if it'll show up. Hold on, let me see if it'll show up in OBS. Plugged it in. There's a little red light on it. Let's see. So if I go here and I go to video capture device, there's nothing in there. Capture card device. Let's see. Video capture device. We got anything? No. USB 2.0 camera, that's not it. That's the VRX. US webcam utility. Okay, so it's nothing in here. Cancel that. Oh, fuck. Hold on. Remove video capture device. Yes. What's the other option in OBS? Capture card device. Let's see if it shows up as a capture card. It does not. Huh. Remove. I'm gonna guess that I need some kind of software for it. But yeah, I'll see what this is. Well, I mean, Uriel, what is it? What is the ESP32? Tell us. Inquiring minds want to know. Uriel says the ESP32 has face recognition. It's fun with Wi-Fi. Oh, it's Wi-Fi. Hold on. I don't know how I would get that into OBS, but if it's Wi-Fi, it should show up here on the computer. Leave that up for a second, see if it comes up. Uriel says, the owl is a sign of wisdom. Get the gears right, otherwise it looks not straight. Deal. It's not showing up yet. Give it another second. CCAD Ryan says, unfortunately, the 1S walks now you sent me blew a MOSFET when I tried to bind the VTX new AIO inbound. I saw that you'd emailed. I didn't look at the emails though. I will get to them. I'm a little bit behind. That's insanity. What the hell? What? Why would that happen when you were trying to bind it to the VTX? Was it sitting there beeping for a long time? Maybe? That sucks, dude. I'm sorry. This is the problem with, like, selling drones. It's like, they blow up, and then, you know, that thing ran to, I had to retune it and everything with the, when I swapped the frame out. So, like, I flew a few batteries, and it was totally fine. I'm sorry, brother. That's like direct soldered on there too. I had like really clean solder joints and everything. God damn it. I will read through those emails and get back to you. Sir Lamo says, "What's the magnification of your eyeglass? I was considering getting one." So this is called a Loupe, Loupe, and this guy is 5x. They also sell these in 10x. I don't think you need it in 10x because the focal distance is very short on this. This is in focus at about this distance. So you're already so close to the thing that you're looking at that, like, with 5x magnification at this distance, you really get to see what's in there. So I think 5x is the best bet for a Loupe. And then the other thing that you should definitely get is something that's head mounted. This Yaktosun from eBay or Amazon comes with 3.5x lenses, but the focal distance on this is much farther away. So, like, my guess would, well, I can tell you. So there's the focal distance on this headset. So at 3.5x with this distance here, which is about a foot, this doesn't see near. This feels like it's got at least double the magnification, even though 3.5 versus 5, it's not actually double, but you have to get so much closer with this. There it is. That's the actual focal distance. The palm of my hand is massive and super crisp with this. So yeah, a 5x Loupe is essential. This is like, you should not be building FPV rigs without this. This is how you check for solder balls. This is how you check your work. This will save you $70, $80 from firing up an AIO that's got a little piece of solder that exploded off of the joint that you were working on that you couldn't see, even with the 3.5x magnified headset. Fuck, hold on. I gotta... That's when I sit forward that it starts to really bother me. So I just gotta... Alright. There we go. Denzel the Trouble says, I was wrong. Uriel says it has fake face recognition AI. That's sketchy. I'm gonna figure it out. I'll do a little Googling and see what's up with that. Cool. Caught up on chat. Let's start screwing around with the CrazyG 473. So this is HappyModel's newest 1S only 5 amp ELRS onboard VTX all-in-one. It uses the little JST plug here instead of the giant USB port, which is awesome. It is direct solder for the motors only, which is not awesome, but we need AIOs that are direct solder, and so, like, this needs to exist. I hope that they come out with a version of this that has motor plugs, or at least has holes so that we can put the motor plugs on it. But the way this is set up, there is really no way to get this with motor plugs. So you're going to be direct soldering. This is, if you crash hard or a lot, for me, if you're anything like me, it's going to drive you insane. But if you want to do a super lightweight build, this is how you do it. The motor plugs do legitimately add weight. So it's great that this exists. They give you this little dongle boy here and this little cable to hook up this JST to this to USB. This is a really good setup. This JST plug instead of the USB port is much shorter, so you won't have issues with that JST plug hitting your battery, and it's a little bit lighter, and it should also be more durable. So this is actually great that this is on here. It's got a shitload of pads on it, man. So you've got video in, video out. Oh, so it doesn't have a camera plug either, which the SuperX also did not. The 2G4 has both motor plugs and a camera plug, which I love that about it. The SuperX did have, well, the SuperX V2 at least did have motor plugs, but it didn't have camera plugs. You had to direct solder the motor. The CrazyG473 now doesn't have really any plugs. So you're going to be direct soldering the camera, which also is going to save you a little bit of weight. So you're going to pretty much use this set of pads here, 5-volt ground, video in. You're not going to use video out unless the onboard VTX dies and you want to run an external. And then it's got a row of pads here for if you ever need to run an external receiver. So it looks like it has TX2, RX2, TX4, RX4, 5-volt and ground. That's really nice that they gave you 2 UARTs. That allows you to do stuff like run an external VTX analog or HD, but then also run a logger. Having a second UART is actually really, really nice. Or you can run an external receiver and an external VTX analog or HD. Really, really, really nice that they've got 2 external UARTs on here. That is that's pretty rad. And then on the other side of the board, I think I saw some pads as well. Yeah, there you go. So they're showing you where the VTX power bridge is here. And there's the receiver power bridge. They've got a pad for an addressable LED strip, which is pretty cool. Buzzer pads, an extra ground pad. Oh my God, they have another UART. They've got 3 UARTs on this thing. Holy hell, I didn't realize that. Ground, T1, R1, 5-volt. So, I mean, there's pads all over this damn thing. And then the battery plus and minus, which are through holes, which I also love. So, yeah, they did a good job with these pads. The UFL for the VTX antenna is almost perfectly centered, but not quite. I wish they had shifted this over just a hair so that it was absolutely dead center with these holes. When this is off center a little bit, if you try to run one of the camera mounts that sits flat against the board, it makes the camera sit a little bit tilted, and that's like a total deal breaker for me. This is maybe centered enough where it'll be okay, but admittedly, I do wish that they just shifted this over like a couple of millimeters here. I'm sure there's a reason why they didn't, and I don't know of any AIOs that have the UFL perfectly centered. The SuperX was pretty close to being dead centered. This is one of the main reasons that I like the Bri-Brain mounts, is that they raise the camera up a little bit, which not only prevents it from, sitting cockeyed, but it also gets a little bit of the ducts out of view. When you put the camera all the way down against the board, you tend to get more duct in view. It doesn't matter for racers, but for us freestyle donkeys, the ducts in view are kind of ugly. So they did a pretty good job. I'm pretty sure you could fairly easily get like a little piece of foam and just stuff a little piece of foam in here that's roughly the same height as your UFL to get the camera perfectly leveled. But, just one of those little tiny things. It's really close to being dead center. Like, it looks like it's really only actually like a millimeter off center. So it might actually be completely fine. But, yeah. I'm kind of struggling to find negative things about it, and so any ridiculously little small thing that I can kind of figure out, I'll tell you guys. It looks like they've got a bright red note. Oh my God, it's got black box. I didn't realize that. So it says tips. Onboard VTX can only work when battery is plugged in. That's totally normal. And low power of VTX when disarmed is activated. Love that. So the VTX is very low, nearly zero power when the drone is not armed. You can change power level value. I absolutely love this. They have low power until arm turned on, and I think that everybody should do that. I think every single Tiny Whoop AIO that's made should have this exact setup here. And I also actually really like that the onboard VTX doesn't run until the battery is plugged in. I don't like when you plug USB in and it sits there hammering away on the VTX when you're trying to do shit in Betaflight. Most Tiny Whoop AIOs are like that. This is really, really good here. These two things are actually fan-fucking-tastic. And then they've got this note here. Latest Betaflight firmware 2025-12.1 version has fixed the black box issue. So it looks like this has the same deal as the X14, which is that you need to put it on the newest Betaflight firmware 2025-12.1 in order for the black box to work correctly. I did not realize that this thing has black box built in. I was talking about putting a logger on it a minute ago. It looks like it's got 16 megs of black box. That's awesome. That's really, really, really nice. Other than the fact that you're going to have to direct solder the motors, which some people think is a positive, and that UFL port being maybe like 1 millimeter off center, this is arguably the best Tiny Whoop AIO that we've had. I mean, we'll see if it's durable and all that jazz. I am seeing here that it has that the ESC comes from the factory on 96 kilohertz. That's bad. You're going to want to change that to 48 to get much better flight performance. Most AIOs, most ESCs and AIOs at this point come with 96, so we're pretty used to changing that. Nothing else really kind of jumps out at me. They've got a factory dump file here, which is pretty cool. In case you update it to the new version of Betaflight and you forget to grab any of the settings off of it, but I mean, there probably won't be any magical settings. It looks like it's on Betaflight 4.6.0, just like the X14. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it's basically a 1S version of the X14. So the X14 build that we did last week, I guess it was, and the setup and all that is going to be super similar to this. Let's look at the actual board itself real quick here. So they're using just a little bare piece of wire for the ELRS antenna, which is fairly common nowadays, and then they've got the UFL for the video antenna. I mean, I guess we were just kind of looking at pictures of the board itself, but there it is. Nothing earth-shattering, but the specs look really good. The fact that it's got black box on board is pretty awesome. So let's get into it, yo. Let's start soldering to it and see if it explodes. Ooh. Ooh. Porky Chop says 10x is great too, in reference to the loops. Do you not find that that's a little bit too much magnification? Like here's my question, Porky Chop. How often do you use, because you say you have both, how often do you use your 5x loop and how often do you use your 10x loop? Is it like, do you use like one of them way more often than the other? What I'm trying to get at is the 10x loop too zoomed in? Because the more zoomed in, the more like your hand shaking and shit is going to be like kind of annoying. And so yeah, I'm curious about that. I've had this 5x loop forever, and I've never once been like, oh, I wish it had more magnification. So that right there for me is just like, well, then I just don't need the higher magnification. But I'm curious. I'm curious if how often you maybe reach for the one loop versus the other. So let me do this. I'm going to separate these wires out, and we are going to direct solder these motors to this first, with it not in the frame. One of the things that I despise the most about the direct soldered builds is sometimes, and this is like a deal breaker for me, sometimes the motors, well, let me show you. So this happens all the time on the 1.6 inch prop builds. And the motor will not fit through the hole in the side of the frame. And when that's the case, you have to mount the motor and then run the wires up to the AIO and solder it while it's in the frame. And that sucks. Like, you end up touching the plastic frame with the soldering iron and melting it, and like, it's just it makes it really difficult to get good solder joints, because like it's in the frame. You can't put it somewhere comfortable. And so yeah, it's luckily these cockroach frames have nice big gaps in the side here, so you can build do all your soldering from the AIO to the motors, and then feed the motors through 1, 2, 3, 4, and then drop the AIO down, and you're good to go. Veritas Souza says, avoid Minnesota. I was flying my drone there and they opened fire. Yeah, so absolutely unbelievable. Their disregard for human life is absolutely astounding. Absolutely insane how little they value other human beings on this earth. It's one of the most disgusting things about these literal Nazis running around the streets, actually kidnapping and murdering innocent people. So they're doing that because, I don't know if you guys saw it, but the FAA has now said, hey, anywhere that federal agents are, there is now a flight restriction. You cannot fly within, what is it, like 4,000 feet of them? So masked men in cars that do not have any way of you knowing where they are now have a 4,000 foot bubble around them that if you violate, you can get in deep shit, or they're going to fire live rounds up into the air, which are then going to come down somewhere and potentially kill someone or shoot your shit out of the air. So, it's going great. It's going great. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, wait, it's exactly what's been... oh, right. Yeah. It's really just beyond belief. Really, really scary stuff. I just oh, it's just so shameful, man. It's so incredibly shameful. But hey, they're owning the libs, and that's all that matters. It's super important to own the liberals who have only ever wanted fairness and kindness for everyone, even the people that try to destroy that. Super important. Super, super, super important. Scary stuff, man. Really gross. Just gross. Never, ever, ever thought I would say it, but the NRA is finally doing something good. They might actually be the only reason that we get some that there are some consequences for killing a frankly wonderful human being, for the federal government executing a wonderful person who, his last words on Earth were, "Are you okay?" Trying to help a woman being assaulted by a literal Nazi. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Actually, no, very believable, unfortunately. But very, very sad. Very, very, very sad. It's so wild to see the I mean, it's like a constant thing, right, with Republicans, but like to see the double standards. Oh my god, it's just incredible. Every single protest ever that any Republican has been to, there have been guns everywhere. But all of a sudden now, if you bring guns to a protest, you're a terrorist. Crazy how that works. So strange. I could have sworn that Kyle Rittenhouse had a fucking assault rifle. I could have sworn that every single image I've ever seen from a MAGA rally is filled with lunatics with guns. So weird. I don't know. I must have been seeing things. Oh wait, I'm hearing in my earpiece that there's pictures of it online. Oh shit. That's tough. I wonder what the next justification will be. It's bad, dude. We'll see what happens. We had a good run. I talk about that. I've been talking about this a lot in therapy over the last year, and like where we always end up is like, you know, we've had a good run. I got to have 44 so far awesome years on this planet. That's pretty good. That's a lot more than some people get. Because it is certainly feeling like this is the end. But hey, you know, I don't know. I just don't know. It's been a rough few days though. Very, very rough couple of days mentally. All right, so some of these, I think Nyafu, I know that Nyafu used these, and so I'm just cleaning up some of these wires a little bit, flattening out some of these wires. That's looking pretty good. Let me just hit this one a little bit more. All right, perfect. All right, there's that one. Cool. That's all four. We're good to go. All right. Oh, shit. Ugh. So, should I... So, on the bottom of this AIO, there are nice, great big pads. On the top, there are much smaller pads. And then on the side, there are the little pockets. I like the little pockets because it allows me to send the wires straight down. And so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the little crenellations. I always forget what they're called. I think it's a word that begins with C. I don't understand how I can never remember this goddamn word for what these little pockets are on the side of the AIO. But yeah, this will allow me to send the wires straight down, so that the wires aren't exiting right into the to the guards on the Bing Bong. So first thing we need to do is tin these pads on the top here. So I'm going to take some flux paste here, and I'm just going to squeeze a little bit onto each one of these pads, each one of these motor pads. Come on. All right, there we go. All right, cool. I'm not doing the battery pads first because the battery wire is like bigger and thicker gauge, and then you've got the connector, and I just don't want this like bobbling all around. It kind of doesn't matter because I'm using the OmniFixo, but like if you were to do this build like flat on your desk, having this floating around on there would just be a little bit more annoying than the motors. I think it doesn't really matter, to be honest, but anything that we can do to help the build process out. So I'm going to separate these wires, and I'm going to solder these motors on like this, and I'm going to solder all 4 of them on like this. Don't like accidentally solder one upside down, because then inside of the ESC software or inside of Betaflight you're going to have to reverse it. Do them so that they're all like this, and then it'll just make your life a little bit easier. So, Billy Bob, you're going to get one warning. Don't say anything else about it, because I can see where this is going. You're wrong, brother. You're wrong, all right? So you can either leave it be or you're gone. This is not a democracy here. This is my live stream, and it's starting to look like you're on the wrong side of history, but I'm going to give you a chance to stay. But for the record, the last 2 messages of yours that I read, you're dead ass wrong. So here we go. Tinning the motor pads. This is not the time to stay home. This is the time to fight so that we don't end up like Nazi Germany. Because that is 100% where this is going. And if you can't see that, you need to open your eyes, dude. Because it's right in front of you. We are trying to help you. We always have, and we always will. But you have to let us help you. You got to stop fighting us. All right, I'm just hitting these pads one more time to make sure that the big pad on the bottom of the board has some solder on it. All right. And we are good. So I'm going to try to do these by hand because it's a lot faster to do it that way. Will I be able to make that work? Let's see. Oh, 2 of these wires are... one of these wires is a lot shorter than the other 2. So I'm going to... it drives me insane when the wire lengths are not lined up properly. So I'm going to be a little bit crazy. And I'm just going to even these wires up a little bit here. And so let's just strip this off. And one more. All right. There we go. All right, cool. Let me get these tinned real quick, and then we will hook this up. I could just, since the pad is tinned, I could technically make this work, but boy, you get so much of a better solder joint when both the wire and the pad are both tinned. And so just take the extra second to tin the wire. Joshua put out a cool video yesterday about a fancy new soldering station, which I'm intrigued by. I'm not gonna do it. This Weller works totally fine, and usually I'm working on really small stuff, so it's completely fine. But if you're doing work on a lot of like 5-inch end-or lifters, you should watch that video that he did. The performance of that soldering iron is pretty wild. That's pretty impressive stuff. All right, let me see if I can do this by hand here. So I'm coming up from the bottom, and I'm just gonna put this guy in the little pocket here, and we're gonna get it nice and flat into the pad. And so what I'm trying to do here, it's really hard for me to show you guys this. If this is the PCB, and how can I do this? Okay, so this is the wire. This part of my finger here is the exposed bits of internal strands of wire. And then my middle finger here, this is the insulation. Again, this is the PCB. So the PCB has a little pocket. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the... Let me do this the other way. I'm going to do this the other way. Individual strands of wire, and then this is the silicone. What I'm trying to do is not have it be like this. I'm trying to have it be like that. I want the silicone of the wire to tuck up as tight, if not touching, the PCB as possible. When the wire is like this, and there's this gap here with the inner strands of wire, it always breaks there. In order to have these direct soldered motors be durable, you have to get that silicone butted up against the board, because that is going to then... the wire is going to bend in this whole area. Rather than if you have this gap here, it's going to always bend here, and then it's going to break here. So if you want any chance of your direct soldered motors being durable and not breaking off like they still always do, for me, you have to get the silicone directly up against the PCB. All right, I'm just checking out what you guys are up to in the chat real quick. Here we go. So I might want to clean this one up. Now let's see if I can just get it to go in there. Hold on. All right, so I'm tempted to put a little bit more flux on there, but let's just try it the way that it is. See that Frank timed somebody out. I'm just gonna leave it where it is. I didn't do anything. I trust you guys. I didn't see anything like totally obnoxious, but I trust you guys. I wish that we were in a place where we could just not talk about politics, but unfortunately we're not. We are way beyond that. And we have to talk about them, and it's uncomfortable, but it is just very obvious right now what's happening, and there's a right side of history, and there's a wrong side of history. And look, Nazis got hanged whether they were holding a gun or not, and there, like, there will be repercussions to this if we can make it through. Unfortunately, I'm not totally convinced that we are. I hope that we do, obviously, but yeah, you want to be on the right. If history tells us anything, it tells us that it's important to be on the right side of history. And so, you know, trying to help you guys out. Trying to help you out. There's very obvious right and wrong going on. Do an incognito Google. Make sure that when you're getting your own info and doing your own research, that you're using incognito Google searches. Very, very important. The algorithms will show you what you typically look at, and that is dangerous. Those of us that are on the right side of history do a lot of incognito searching to make sure that we get to see both sides. All right. There's one. Yeah, these are fine. These will work. So the little pockets in the side of this board are small, but they're no smaller than any of the other tiny whoop boards. So this is a pretty standard direct soldered build. Like I said earlier, I do really like that this board has these little pockets so that you can solder these wires in the downward direction. I think that's really important to making sure that you don't, that the motor wires aren't smashing directly into the frame. All right, so that was a bad solder joint. It's just barely tacked, but it's not quite on there all the way, and the reason is the tip of my iron is dirty. So let's clean that. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of solder here on the tip of the iron. And we're just going to fix this. There we go. And I'm going to hit it one more time because the wire's not sitting totally flat. There we go. So one of the things I like about doing these by hand is that you can feel when the wire goes into the little pocket, and then you can push up on the wire a little bit to get the silicone butted up against the bottom of the PDB rather. Wait, no, PCB was right. I don't know, either or. The board. But you always do want to check it, and the way that you check it is you just look at it sideways here. You just look at it from this perspective, and what you're looking for is that the silicone is touching the PCB. You don't want to have that area of wire showing between the silicone and the PCB. This is incredibly difficult to get this camera to focus properly on it, but you guys should know what I'm talking about. I talk about this all the effing time. Castellations, thank you so much, CXB. I always get the C right. I don't know why it's always crenellations. I always think crenellations. It's castellations. I always get the C though. It's whatever. I'm gonna check this real quick. These three look fine. These three are fine as well. So yeah, I'm doing this by hand. I am getting a little bit burned when I do this, but it's not that bad. It's worth the pain to do it this way. So that you get a better quality solder joint. And so all I'm doing is I'm just holding it up here. Hold on. I'm holding it like this, and I'm just pushing upwards ever so slightly with each of these wires. And I can feel when that silicone pushes up against the bottom of the board. I can also feel when the wire, I can also feel like if the wire's here, I'll push on the wire with the tip of the soldering iron, and I'll feel when, well, it's more like this, right? It's a little bundle of wires. If it's sitting up here, so what happens a lot is you'll push on the bundle of wires and it'll be like here. With magnification, with these, I can see what's going on, and if I see that's happening, I know that I need to adjust it. And so if I adjust it, I will push with the tip of the soldering iron, and I'll feel when the wire goes into the little pocket, into the little castellation, and then I'll push up on the wire. And when I push up, I'm trying to feel for the silicon to hit the bottom of the PCB. So doing this with your fingers is really, really nice. You can really get the wires into those little pockets. I find a lot easier doing it by hand than with a set of tweezers. Sometimes you have to use the tweezers and you get a little bit of feel with them, but like if you can ever do this by hand, do it by hand. There's just so much more feel in your little fingy tips. All right, here we go. My soldering iron is at 700 degrees. That was a bad solder joint. There was no solder on the tip of the iron. I'm picking up some, and now we're going to do it again. There we go. That one's good. Here comes the second one. Okay. When I pull the soldering iron off the pad, I'm pulling upwards. That tends to help with like that little bit of solder that wants to kind of chase the soldering iron. Last one. There we go. Those three look good, and I could feel them kind of dropping in there. Last one. All right. Tip of the soldering iron still has a little blob of solder on it. I was quick. Nope, that one's not in there. Nope. There it is. You want to have that little bit of upwards pressure. What sometimes you have that upwards pressure and the solder, the wire will like sort of rotate and cant outwards a little bit. That's what keeps happening. That's why I keep having to rework this, but that's totally fine. I can see it because of the magnified goggles, and I can also kind of feel it. Second one was super easy. Here comes the last one. Cool. So with the soldering iron at 700 degrees, this is sort of the pace that you want. This is like the time on pad that you're shooting for. You don't want to have that heat on the pad for a lot longer. You don't want to just dump more and more and more heat into the AIO. You want to be able to like, and again, like we always talk about, the tip of the soldering iron, the heat only comes in at the last second. You got to get your head into position where, you know, when you run magnification, you have to move your face to get the correct distance between the magnified optics and the thing that you're looking at. That's where the crisp focus comes in. So you get yourself set up, you got your magnification on. The first thing you need to do is move your head forward and back so that the solder joint is perfectly in focus. And now you're going to leave your head in that spot, right? So now you can see what you're doing. And then you're going to get the wire into position. Eventually you can kind of do these things all at the same time, but each one of these things is super important. You get the wire into position, you get yourself kind of comfortable, you try to get this side of your hand down on the desk so that you have bone support. Don't hover your hand up. When you hover your arms up in the air, you get shake. you got to get this part of your hand down on the desk. Both of you karate chop the desk with both hands, with the soldering iron and with the hand that's holding the wire. So get your hand down on the desk, get comfortable. Don't be like all fucking wound up like this. This is when you start shaking as well. Get comfortable. If I'm honest, right now, because my back's bothering me, I'm trying to do all this work with my back in the chair. So I'm kind of scooching down and I'm rolling myself under the desk. I don't usually work like that. I find it way easier to sit forward so that I can get up on the work, and it makes it a lot easier. I try to do that without like rolling the shit out of my back usually, but yeah, I don't know why I hurt my back this time. And so you do all that shit before you even think about getting the soldering iron tip in there, right? So like by the time you put heat on the pad, the wire is lined up, your head is in the right position where you can see exactly what's going on, you're not all twisted up, and then so everything is ready to go, and now the tip of the soldering iron comes in. Hopefully it's clean, and it's got a little bit of solder on it. You want to tin the tip of the soldering iron. This is so that the tip of the soldering iron is like this, and then the wire is like this. And so you've got round against round. So when you have round against round, the contact patch is tiny. When you have a little blob of solder on the tip of the soldering iron, when you bring that little blob in, the liquid solder encases the wire, and it transfers the heat right away. And so when you see me kind of moving quick between pads, it's because all of those fundamentals are there. The wire's in the perfect spot. I can see what's going on. The tip of the soldering iron is tinned so that when you bring that heat in, the heat transfers right away. The wire's in the right spot. You're going to take a split second to make sure that you feel that wire slot in to the castellation, to the little pocket. And then with your left hand, you're going to push up a little bit until you feel that silicone hit the bottom of the PCB. And now you've got a good solder joint, but that's not it. So now you're going to, in my opinion, if the board's like this, you've now got everything correct. If you take the soldering iron off like that, if there's no flux left, which can happen, the solder will try to come with the soldering iron, and it'll make a little Hershey kiss or like a little oval. And that's where the frame is. That's where the guard of the frame is. You don't want that. So you want to remove the soldering iron up. So pull the soldering iron upwards. If the solder goes upwards, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to be hitting into the frame. But usually when you pull it upwards, especially if you kind of like, not like flick it upwards because you don't want to throw the solder off it, but if you give it a little bit of a like, instead of like, right, like don't really slowly like this. This is like asking to make that little Hershey kiss of solder, right? So get it up off there, like give it a little. I almost said the word throw, but don't throw, because you don't want to throw the solder off the tip of the iron and have it land on the AIO. But like experiment, you want to move it up a little bit faster each time until you don't get that little Hershey kiss of solder up on top. And then that's it. You want to pull it up off the pad as slowly as possible to not have that extra little bit of solder. Hopefully that makes sense. And then the last step is you freeze. You don't blow on it, you don't breathe, you just freeze, and you leave your left hand there so that the solder cools with as little vibration as possible. If your left hand is moving around while that solder is cooling, that's going to be a cold solder joint. And those are the solder joints that break. So when you're working on small stuff like this, you have to hit these fundamentals. It makes a massive difference. It's totally doable. It takes a little bit of practice, and it takes somebody that's done this before telling you that sequence of events. Joshua has a fantastic tutorial on soldering, which is great. License to Drive says, so it's a hot three-way between the iron tip, solder wire, and what needs soldering. It is indeed. So we've got our motors on here. Now we just need to get a BT 2.0 battery lead on. Let's see if I can just knock this out. So the battery lead, I absolutely love using the through holes because they're the strongest possible way to connect a wire with a PCB. But the problem is, a lot of times the wires won't fit through the through holes, and that just kind of makes your life a little bit more annoying. In BetaFPV world, white is ground, which kind of makes sense because white is the opposite of black, and then blue is red, which is live. The other way to think about it is round is ground. It rhymes. And so the round part of the BT 2.0 is the white. And so round is ground. On this board, it's got B plus and B minus. So we're going to put the white through the B minus. I thought that they made these holes a little bit bigger. Massive, massive thank you to HappyModel. They have made these through holes bigger than any other Tiny Whoop AIO through holes I've ever seen. Usually the Tiny Whoop through holes are exactly not big enough for, I think this is 22 gauge wire to go through. In this case, it is easy for these to go through here. So the next decision that you have to make here is, do you tin these through holes and then put the wire through it? Or do you put the wire through now and then just dump a bunch of solder into the through hole? It's better to tin these and then get the wire through, but the problem when doing that is you tin them, it closes the hole, and then you've got to put the soldering iron here, and then you've got to fumble because you can't see what the hell you're doing. And so what I've had really good luck with is, especially if you have an OmniFixo, is you make sure that you get flux inside of the through hole. So you basically put like too much flux, and this is really only going to work with flux paste. With liquid flux, you can't get enough of it in there. So I've got this flux paste in a syringe, so I've just loaded these two up with that. So now what I can do is take this OmniFixo arm. This is one of the things that makes this OmniFixo just worth its weight in gold. Well, let me check this. I always like to make one wire shorter than the other. In this case, these are both the same length. So the wire is going to go this way. And so here's the pads. And so the ground pad is closer to the back. So I want my ground wire to be a little bit shorter so that these wires sit nice and flat. And right now, the ground wire is actually a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut the ground wire down a little bit here and restrip and retin it so that these wires will lay a little bit flatter on here. This is a subtle thing, but it does make a difference. Because when there's extra wires, it just kind of sucks. And so there we go with that. I stripped this wire with my fingernails. That is the safest way to do it. This wire here is at a little bit of a janky angle. I'm going to straighten that out a little bit by just putting it flat against the OmniFixo and just kind of pushing it down there. Cool. That looks a little bit better. And now I need to tin this one. So I'm just going to throw this in the little OmniFixo here, get my little spool of solder, and tin the tip of the soldering iron first. Soldering iron on one side of the wire, and then push the solder in from the other side to completely engulf the tip of the wire in solder. I've actually got a little bit too much solder on there right now. It will not go through the through hole. So I'm just going to take the dry side of the soldering iron, and solder always travels towards the heat. So all I did was touch it to the tip of that, and it attracted a little bit of the solder, and now I'm going to clean it off. And now we've removed, hopefully, just enough solder. Let's see if I removed enough for it to go through the through hole, and I did. So Here's one of the things that makes the OmniFixo so awesome is that you put this in here, and the way that the little magnet and ball setup works, when you move this, it stays. It doesn't do that thing that most of the helping hands do where when you move it and then you let go, it recoils. This stays exactly where you put it. And so I'm actually going to do the live one first, the battery plus pad first. And so I can see what I'm doing because I don't have the tip of the soldering iron up in here. So I can just sit here, and you can even pick the OmniFixo up and just get the wire through the through hole, and then it's going to stay. And so now the wire is exactly where I want it. I can even put a little bit of an angle in the bottom of the wire with the little OmniFixo. I like doing that because the wire is going to go backwards this way, right? So we get a little bit of angle in here. We get the wire pushed up so that it's all the way through the through hole. And now your job is super easy because you can just put the tip of the iron on one side of the pad on the top and feed solder into the other side. You're going to tin this whole pad and through hole all at once while you're adding solder. And I've had really good luck in doing this. You're going to add more solder than you think you need to. And so we bring in the heat. And then you also want to try to push solder into the through hole. You're going to be a little bit patient because you need to make sure that the heat saturates the whole thing. And now in this case, I pulled the soldering iron outwards to prevent the solder from chasing. I'm not going to pick the soldering iron up because that's going to try to make that little Hershey kiss. You're going to pull it outwards because there is no pad on the outside of the board here. And so by pulling the soldering iron outwards, you're not giving it anywhere to go. And so now we're going to do the battery negative here. And it's going to be the same deal. We can just push this OmniFixo upwards until the wire is exactly where we want it. Also, Joshua put out a video recently of a knockoff to the OmniFixo that is a lot cheaper. I think the OmniFixo is 70 or 80 bucks. Yeah, that's a good amount of money, but it is absolutely worth it. That knockoff is really good, though, to be honest. The one benefit of the OmniFixo is that you can pass voltage up through it. You're never going to do that. So that knockoff is absolutely fine. I really can't imagine a world where 90% of people will need that one benefit of the OmniFixo. So yeah. I'm going to remove this clamp from the BT 2.0 lead itself, and I'm going to clamp the actual wire here. The ground wire, because I was having an issue where I've already soldered one wire on, and so when I was moving the plug, it wasn't quite getting this where I needed it. This is much better. And so just kind of moving this around a little bit. And this is easy to do, right? I'm not having like the soldering iron. I'm not worried about like too much time on the pad. And now it's just perfect. Like that's exactly where the wire should be. And now I can just come in with the heat. I am actually going to add a little bit more flux onto this. Doing it this way without tinning this pad, you got to have flux. The flux is going to make sure that the heat really circulates here and everything stays nice and clean. And so you're just going to wait. The ground pad's going to take more time. I'm still having to wait. It still hasn't transferred the heat to the pad itself. You can kind of move the solder around a little bit, and now it's transferred the heat. And out. And now we're good to go. The ground pads you have to be more patient with because the ground pad is tied into the ground plane. There's an entire sheet of copper in this whole thing. And so as soon as you put the tip of the soldering iron on this pad, the heat spreads out into the whole board. So you always have to be more patient with the ground pads. That's totally normal. You need to wait until you see the solder flow. What was happening there is that you've got your pad with the through hole in it, and then you've got your wire, right? So I had my wire in through the pad, and so I was dumping heat into the wire, and so there was a big round blob of solder in the middle, but it wasn't flowing to the rectangular pad. And so you just wait. One of the things I did is I took the tip of the soldering iron and I started to move it around a little bit onto the corners of the pad to help it dump more heat into the pad. And then once that pad and the ground plane had heated up enough, then the solder all of a sudden it flows. The solder flows from the tip of the wire to the pad itself. And now you can't see any more of that gold. It's all covered by solder. That's really important. If the solder does not flow from the wire to the pad, and this is the case like everywhere, you've got a wire and you've got a pad. You're connecting these two. Initially, you're going to put the heat into the wire, and so the solder on the wire is going to flow. You have to wait until you see, and if you have magnification, you'll be able to see it. You have to see that solder flow from the wire to the pad, and it'll be this nice rounded kind of surface. Initially, you're going to have a ball of solder on the wire, and then when it flows, it's going to go like that. And you'll see it flow onto the pad, and it'll cover up all of the golds or copper or whatever you're soldering to on the pad itself. Make sense? CXB says, I just received the low-cost version of the OmniFixo. It's solid, and you can pass voltage through it. Strong magnets, great unit. Oh, there you go. So there's no problem with it. UCanFPV says, keep an eye on BetaFPV's website over the next few days. Cool. I've been testing the stuff that will be on there. I just can't tell you guys about it. Probably shouldn't even tell you that I'm testing it, but I've had it for a while. You guys have actually seen some flight footage from it. But there's no way to tell what flight footage was from it and what wasn't. All right. Checking my work. One of the most important parts of all of this. When you solder to through holes, you want to look at the opposite side of the pad and make sure that the solder has come through and fully coated the wire itself. And hopefully also coated the pad on the bottom. It did coat the pad on one of these. It didn't coat the pad on the other one. But I know that it flowed to the inside of the pad on the top here, and that's actually kind of fine. If I have to remove this and redo it, the next time I do it, it'll almost certainly coat the pad on the bottom. I've got the silicone pressed all the way up against the PCB, so the silicone is kind of sealing the solder from coming out the bottom. This will be completely fine. Yeah, this looks good. So there we go. It is, oh man. I was hoping we get this done before 12 and get this set up on. But I still have to like screw the motors down. I'm going to have to update the board. I mean, I don't have to, but I'm going to update the board. To be continued, I think. I had a feeling I wouldn't be able to get this whole build done. It looked like we would have been done with this build an hour ago if this was on the motor plugs, which is another thing that kind of drives me insane about direct soldering these. Like, could I have done this faster? Sure. But the quality of the work that would be here would not be as good. And these direct soldered motors break off an awful lot for me. And so it's really important to get this done the right way. And so, yeah, kind of is what it is. But I also now need to get the... did this come... I never showed you what came in the box. We kind of saw on their website what came in the box. This did... It's obviously, it comes with rubber grommets. They always come with rubber grommets. It also comes with an A30. An A30 plug. I love that these are black, but sometimes these don't fit all that good. This one's fine, though. Be careful with these A30s. I've had a couple of these A30s that when you plug it into the battery, it's really loose. This one is perfect, though. So apparently it's not all of them. I really like the BetaFPV 180 degree. It sits nice and flat. It makes it easier to unplug. So like I always use these. They're what I recommend. Or the really cool little tiny whoop LED 180 degree jib jab. These are fine. I love that they're black again, but yeah. So yeah, I need to get these grommets in there as well. I don't. Yeah, we're almost perfectly at 2 hours. Let's call it quits for the night. This is all the not fun. There's nothing that I can tell you that's going to help anything on these next bunch of things. Like the soldering help is where I can actually give you guys some value. So it's good that we got that done. With these little grommets, you're going to pinch it, right? Pinch it to flatten it out. Get it in there at a 45-degree angle. And then you're going to kind of hold it with your other finger here. And then if you've got a pair of tweezers that are blunt-tipped, don't use sharp-tipped tweezers. Blunt-tipped tweezers, you're going to pinch and push. Pinch and push. Pinch and push. And you just get it a little bit at a time. Little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. And then at the last second, you can come onto the other side and use your fingernail to kind of pull it through the rest of the way. That's how to get those grommets in. That's the last of the help that I can realistically give you guys. From here on, this build is just literally screwing screws in. Maybe I'll wait to do the Betaflight setup for this because I haven't done a setup with the new 2025 version on the web. Although I think I might have just done it the other day with the X14. I don't know. I might wait, but we've got a lot of stuff to test. I've got to rebuild this other rig with the 2G4. We've got the green version. I mean, we've got, thanks to Uriel, we've got these VCI motors in bearing and bushing with plugs on them. So we can test these with motor plugs. So we got this testing coming up, which will be cool. So yeah, I might just, and I've got 2 builds over here. I've got 2 builds that I'm going to do to then sell. So we've got lots of like content for live streams. I think I might just knock this build out off stream, and then I wanted to fly tonight, but we ran out of time. Next time we fly, you'll get to see it in the air, and we'll start talking about these motors and whatnot. Oh, this will be cool. Okay, so this has direct soldered purple VCI 30,000s. I've also got a set of plug-based VCI 30,000s. So we can do a cool little comparison Friday, maybe Sunday, maybe Monday of G473 with direct soldered VCI 30s versus 2G4. I'll rebuild the 2G4 and we'll do the plug-in. Same motors on the plugs. And we can compare plugs versus no plugs, 2G4 versus G473. Cool. That's way more valuable than yeah, me showing you how to set Betaflight up again. But maybe we will. Yuke says, never mind, you know then. I can't wait. Do you know an exact date? I do not. Did you get the other thing too? The bigger part. They sent me 4 things. They sent me 4 completely separate things. One of them failed pretty quickly. The other 2 have been completely fine. I haven't had a ton of time to test them, though, to be completely honest. But Capital C says, I got so sick of the tiny wires on the tiny motors breaking at the solder joint. I tried drowning the joints in E6000. So far, it seems to be working. I've always wanted to do that, but I just haven't yet. Capital C that says they still break, but it seems to take a bit longer. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Maybe I'll do that on this one. I'll almost certainly forget, though. So I'm going to do that right now, actually. But see, like, if you do that, it becomes so much... No, because I'm going to remove these motors. Yeah, no, see, I can't do that. I guess the main reason that I haven't done it is that I test too much shit. And so, like, if I cover these solder joints in E6000, it's going to be a pain in the ass to remove it. And so I'm actually not going to do that. But that's a really good idea if you're not going to test 40 different kinds of motors. License to Drive says, if you haven't already, check out Springsteen's new song on YouTube. As in Bruce Springsteen? Here we go. Oh, wow. That's a hell of a song name. Okay, very cool. Jesus. Yuke says, I'm excited to hear about your thoughts, when you can talk about them. And cool, I think we're good. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything, though. I don't think I did. Stu says, next time I see you, I'll give you one of these really good ones. I don't know what we were talking about. Oh, you know what? I just... and so for the record, the Stream Sniper... No, Social Stream Ninja absolutely is way better than having the regular YouTube window up. I didn't have any memory leak nonsense. But I did just notice that the Stream Ninja thing doesn't give me the little timestamps, which is kind of a bummer. But I'll totally sacrifice the timestamps on your guys' messages for the computer not shitting itself 2-3 times per live stream. I think I'm good. I don't think I missed anybody. Kevin Summer says there's an option for timestamps. Is it here? Move group. Where's the option? Where's the timestamp option? Is it in user agent settings? No. I'll find it. Denzilla says, CiottiFPV is from Jersey. Springsteen is his uncle. He is indeed. Yeah, I grew up... my parents had great taste in music, man. I grew up to a soundtrack of Springsteen and... Oh, man, just such good stuff. Classical music as well. My parents fell in love with classical music, which is... I'm very lucky to have grown up with that. It's one of the reasons I think that I'm kind of like forever a bit of a musician. But yeah, Springsteen was a big part of the soundtrack of my youth. Kevin Summer says, glad to hear social streams working for you. CCAD Ryan says, left some pretty good details on the Whoop in the email. Hopefully things work well in the end. Have a great night. Kevin says, Frank Nicholas says, timestamps may be a setting. Kevin Summer says, search button for the options in the upper right. I see English in the upper right. I'm sure I'm just blind. I'll find it, though. I'll just Google search for it. Live chat options, timestamp slider. Nice. Thanks for hanging, friends. CiottiFPV.com. If you like these live streams and would like to see them continue, I rely on your support, especially as I talk political trash and people, as always, unfollow. Patreon is the best way to support me. Be on the right side of history, please, for the love of God. The time to just ignore politics is long gone. We have to talk about this shit, and we have to stand up for, you know, people that are being treated very unfairly and or executed in the street. You know? So, be on the right side of history with me. Please. Please. because you won't like it if it doesn't go our way. I promise you, you will not like living in an authoritarian fascist regime. Okay? Be good, people. I'll see you on Friday. Here's some random whooping. 1S 75mm. Hey, 1002 25,000s. The GEPRC 1002 25,000s on 1S. Be good, friends. All right, this is now the GEPRC. Come on. Rig. Come on, take off past me.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's, fur flies, and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin, all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky. They never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, they zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sighties on sticks, Teddy's on paws, side by side legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen over couch scale terrain, backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz fuel fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah. Yo, Sighty behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle Mike. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah, let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep. Yeah, CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, diamond and duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Teddy spaghetti. Barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, things zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotty and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPV's fur-faced legends sing it loud. Yeah, Teddy spaghetti and CiottiFPV always proud.